G'day everyone. This is Rangadad, not financial advice. This just is the way I'm looking at the market. Looks like the market's reasonably happy with CPI. Worth remembering that if PPI comes in below expectations, it's been 100% hit rate lately of CPI coming in either as expected or lower. And we got the same thing again today. As I said in the description, we still need to clear some pretty major levels, and actually, with 4 hours left to go in this candle, I'm not super impressed with the volume that's come through in this one. Obviously, if you look at this candle here, then a good chunk of this volume was actually buying volume. Even though it's a red candle, the buying up off this low was quite substantial. So, maybe we're starting to get exhausted on the buyers, and given we got this channel forming here, it's not a great thing that, again, if you're going to go by close, that could be a better channel as well. So I'd like to see a decent close above that 100K or maybe even 101K. We start to get a good close above that, I would expect it to clear this high here, at least sweep the liquidity that's above that, in which case you're going to probably run pretty well up into these highs again. In the Discord yesterday, I did say that there's actually some confluence out around the 28th of January, so end of January, say, where we've got this trend line here it was pretty good on the way up. It's been resistance here as well. So somewhere around that end of Jan, you would expect a bit of resistance up around the 110, 112 mark. Now this trend line here is actually joining the first peak of the previous run up before we went into this massive consolidation. So I think that would actually be a pretty reasonable overhead resistance as well. So we're inside a decent channel to the upside at the moment based on that trend line there, but yeah, it's just like to see a bit more volume come through, to be honest. Now, BBWP has started to tick above the signal line, stochastic momentum's to the upside. This setup is a pretty good setup, really. So assuming we don't get a major rejection off this channel, I think everyone will have that as a trend line on the charts. Assuming we don't get a major rejection, then I would expect us to come up reasonably quickly. Now, what may actually happen, just looking at the value area, that's been a pretty major area for support and resistance and key levels. I'd like to see a retest of it. So we may actually come up, have a down day, and then start to move to the upside. It may even chop. Like, as we said, it could be a choppy year. So we are in earnings season as well. It could be something where we actually come up, take the liquidity above the previous local high there, come back down, retest this level, potentially point of control even, back into this trend line, and then we move up. At which point, I'd kind of expect it to break above there, and we may get a bit more of a bleed through. Like, I don't think it's just going to stop 2K beyond this at this stage. Hard to know from here, but that could potentially be a blow off top type run from here. Based on this sort of setup with stochastic momentum and BBWP, this could actually be the start of a blow off top as well. But it's trading more like the stock market at the moment, more like S&P 500 and stuff. So at this stage, excuse me, at this stage, I don't see us just ripping to a new all-time high. Certainly not selling at the moment, but we'll look at some key shorter-term levels as well. So at the very least, sticking in this upward channel here would be quite bullish. Breaks below this channel and closes below that channel, I would actually suggest we're going to come back down and potentially even back into that 85K level. At the very least, the bottom of this downward channel. And that's pretty similar on stocks as well. So again, everyone seemed pretty excited by the CPI, but the volumes that are coming through are not big at all. So it could be that we're climbing the wall of worry. You've got to keep that in mind as well. Like, investors get a bit nervous coming off bottoms, especially when there is such a big downward channel overhead, that downward trend line. I would expect this to keep going though, just to come in at least to take more of this vector candle. So that could potentially get people excited. And yeah, what we could see as well is a bit of a fake out, close the gap down here, and then we break out. What you don't want to see is breaking below this gap here with any sort of momentum. So it is still tentative days for stocks. The thing that I like at the moment is that we do seem to be finding a base on the equal weights. So the equal weight NASDAQ isn't as good a read. There is pretty good momentum divergence here, which we pointed out the last couple of days. So that is a good sign. Again, SPY, we're just got to break those levels. Actually, that's not a bad. If we close somewhere around here, we've still got 2 hours left on the futures, but if we close above this trend line, that is a good sign. Doesn't necessarily mean we rip higher, but that would be a good sign. What I'm looking at is this equal weight. So the equal weight has closed above this key level that we've had in there. Well, sorry, it's not closed yet. We've got about an hour before the close. If it does close above that, which we're coming off increasing BBWP, increasing stochastic momentum, bullish divergence on stochastic momentum, this to me suggests this should keep going. We may have some overhead resistance in the next couple of days, but it's geared for a decent upside. And I think the equal weights have really been the ones to watch lately. I mean, they were dropping well before the stock market started dropping. They've been giving pretty good indications as to what's going to go on. along with other stuff, of course. So IWM effectively recovered this vector. Again, it's bullish divergences, BBWP is up. If we break above this level here, the 226.5, then it should keep running pretty well. XLI, yeah, XLI's got a decent break of this little range that it was in as well. Again, coming off bullish divergences. These could run pretty well. XLY, XLP is still up. Again, we were using them to show that it's probably not time to panic yet. And by no means are we out of the woods yet. We need to see a break of those downward trend lines, but there is a break of key levels already on consumer staples and consumer discretionary versus the S&P 500. These two charts here, so that is suggesting still momentum to the upside. Yeah. KRE, good. If KRE reclaims this line here and actually keeps going up, that would be a pretty good sign overall for markets. And momentum is such that it looks like it should do that. Don't know whether we'll make all-time highs on it. We do have a lot of the banks reporting. I think we may have seen some report already, so that may be reflecting that. But yeah, earnings season's going to be an interesting one. But that is certainly a pretty bullish situation there for KRE. The regional banks. Everything, like a lot of the key indexes are breaking to the upside pretty decently. That was a good close yesterday on home builders, and home construction obviously as well did something pretty similar. Again, we were leaning in this direction just based off momentum and BBWP levels. Semis still not really breaking out, but it does look like they're turning at the moment. Bit of hidden bullish divergence in there. Little surprised semis haven't gone a little bit harder, but DJR Gold's ticking back to the upside. So a lot of these things are pointing in the right direction for more up. It's just on the main indexes, it seems like just the volume, the lack of volume is really quite surprising. It might be that retail got wiped out and that part of the volume isn't there, but I don't know. The skew. So the skew did actually pull back a little bit yesterday, but nothing to really write home about compared to the pump the day before. Be interested to see where it's at tomorrow or the end of today. 1 day VIX is pulling back again. I will be interested to see where this bottoms as well. We just go to the line chart. I'd like to see it drop down. If the 1 day VIX drops down below this level here, that would be quite bullish. The fact that we've kind of broken a little bit of a trend line on the move down. So these points here have pretty well picked the top of the rips. So breaking that is a good sign, I would say. I wouldn't necessarily say we're out of the woods yet, but I'd also be interested to see what happens somewhere around this level. So a bit of a bounce off that level, so a bit of a pullback, and then further pullback on this would be a bullish sign for markets overall. Just quickly do the advanced decline line as well. We haven't had a look at that in a little while. Good move on advanced decline line. So was a little sketchy there. I didn't mention it in the last couple of days just because I wasn't convinced that it was actually showing us anything real. But now if this is going along with everything else, then it's quite a bullish sign. All right. TLT, high yield, they're all sort of coming off their lows. So everything at this stage is pretty well having a bounce. German market will be interesting to see if it can clear that that trend line there. It looks like it wants to at the moment, which is weird. I could have sworn the Germans were talking about how bad the economy is for them recently. So I'm still leaning towards whatever run up we get here is potentially going to find the top of the market for quite an extended period. Yeah, high yield, that's actually quite a bullish scenario there as well. Bit of a scary gap that it's left, but don't think it has to fill that straight away. This one, it was suggesting upside, but now it's kind of confirmed it with that close, and momentum's finally out of the bearish control zone. Again, you kind of, if we start breaking trend lines like this, then the momentum would definitely be to the upside. So yields pull back a little bit as well. FOMC meetings and stuff are probably going to drive a lot of this over the next couple of months. Yeah. Again, wasn't convinced we were going to 5% just based on everything else that was going on. Chinese 10 years pulled back a little bit as well, which it hasn't affected the global liquidity read that much. It's still just trudging sideways and up slightly, which you want that to keep going and potentially even have a bit of a bounce to the upside if you want stocks and that to keep going up. Copper's looking good, decent break out of that trend line. So maybe a little pullback and then more upside, but at this stage, that was another good sign that we were finding a base. Copper was really starting to get a run on. Gold, I mean, that pretty well looks like a retest and move away from some key levels there. It's broken that downward trend line. I would kind of be expecting this. Could draw a trend line somewhere through the middle here. Your next stop is probably actually going to be pretty close to that all-time high. That's not the best trend line, but typically when you got a channel, you will have a midline that picks up some key resistance points. So watch out for this sort of level around the 2800, but realistically, based on a couple of the longer term analysis or the longer term looks that I did on gold recently, gold should keep running, and probably over the next couple of years, gold's probably going to be one of the better investments out there. Gold silver ratio looks like it's looking to break to the upside too, and silver is running harder than gold at the moment, so it's not a bad read. So the British inflation rate came in softer as well. If I look at that year on year. Oil breaking out still, and this is going to put pressure, and I think this is what's concerning the market a little bit, that oil's running so hard. That will put pressure on inflation the next time around, which may cause the Fed to pause rather than reduce interest rates, which I don't think the market will like very much. Dixie didn't quite hit our 110 level, but that vector candle, this is why the vector candles can be really useful. Everyone was sort of looking at 110.64 and things like that. When you've got key sort of support resistance levels around the top of that candle, the 110 sort of region was a very juicy region for a pullback. Not out of the woods yet. There's a pretty strong trend line that it needs to break below. So I wouldn't be calling this as a major breakdown, and maybe that's why markets aren't like ripping to the upside yet either. But if we do break below this, I would expect it to come down reasonably hard back into the 106.5 at least. There is a gap down here at 103.6 as well, which if we are going into a big bull run and blow off top, that is probably where I would at least expect it to come into, if not 101. But this could even be the top for the Dixie in this entire cycle. Won't worry about the others. They're all up versus US, obviously. So this thing's a weird signal, but we are still kind of trending to the upside. You just want to keep that trend going to the upside. That's the key thing with global liquidity at the moment. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average has made a decent bounce as well, so that's a good sign. Mag 7, it's got a bit of resistance there too. You could move that down to the closes, so yeah, I'd like to see confirmations or at least 2 closes above these things to get excited about break of trend lines. Yeah, Tesla, not a bad close. Nvidia, I would fully expect to come up at least into this candle here, that 150 mark. Another retest that 150 mark, and I'd actually expect it to be broken. There's a lot of guys calling for 170 and stuff on Nvidia. So in general, it looks like we have found a bottom at the moment. We just got to get through some key resistance levels. The Aussie market after ours has gone mental. I mean, I would expect this head and shoulders to not play out now. Similar to the US one, hasn't really played out fully. But yeah, that's, again, we're still only just at levels where we're recovering vectors. So we're getting into liquidity levels where it needs a bit of a push to get through to next levels. Crypto market cap is looking very healthy. This is an interesting one now. So, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm not super convinced that stablecoins, either USDT dominance or stablecoins versus BTC, actually gives you any edge over just looking at the BTC charts itself. If you're looking at them the right way, I think BTC charts is probably the way to go anyway. Interesting that we're getting a little uptick in the BTC longs still, despite the fact we have actually moved quite considerably to the upside. It could be these guys are starting to feel like they missed the dip. So still edging higher on this. It's not a bad sign for the time being. They can still keep accumulating as Bitcoin's going up. And if we're seeing them still, the longs still accumulate as BTC is going up, then that is actually a pretty healthy sign that we're going for a bigger run. I wouldn't say that is really showing that at the moment yet. I need a bit more of an uptick than that, but what you don't want to see is a big drop off in this. Shorts to come back down, which doesn't surprise me. Oh, the interesting thing, ETH BTC, they're actually starting to long ETH versus BTC again. So after such, like these people that were longing here just got absolutely destroyed. Yeah, that surprised me. I thought ETH was dead, but that's suggesting that ETH may actually get a bit of interest at the moment. And, you know, it has had a pretty decent day, bigger percentage-wise than Bitcoin. It's got a decent vector to come into here, just like Bitcoin has as well, but some pretty major overhead resistances. So if we do start breaking, value area highs and clearing these big rejection areas, then crypto could go on a pretty decent run. And given all the levels on the stock markets seem to be ripe to be broken, then you'd have to be favouring upside here. This is still a concern that we will roll over again, and this will just be a fake out to the upside, and we come back down into the bottom of a channel or the bottom of this area. But yeah, we'll wait and see. At this stage, the momentum in BBWP levels are such that it would make sense for it to break through P levels. I'm going to have a quick look at liquidation levels. Getting a lot of shorts coming in here, and it looks like it's going to take them. So we just zoom out a bit to month. So these are still stronger levels up here than what even the yellow ones in the previous chart. They look like nothing compared to the levels that are up here. So at this stage, it looks like we should break out of those key downward trend lines. I honestly think it will rip through this pretty quickly, and I think we'll be heading back up into that 105, 500 sort of level, potentially a little bit higher. So liquidity-wise, it hasn't left a lot behind after that dip compared to what's above. So, and we pointed that out yesterday. Liquidity-wise, it looks like we should be going higher. Yeah, good CVD. Really good CVD increases at the moment. This is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see general trend to the upside on cumulative volume delta. Haven't seen a general trend to the upside in quite a while. Even into the highs, it was actually starting to pull back. So good signs there, and really big deltas. Like, that's not common to have these sort of deltas. And we got plenty of sellers coming through at the peaks, which it just seems to want to take that liquidity at the moment. Pullbacks have been pretty meek. Like, we didn't even pull back into some of the key vectors that were sitting down in here before CPI. It's just someone's got some inside info and was just buying Bitcoin. Possibly BlackRock. Anyway, enough conspiracies. Little bit of a topping signal there, but not super strong either. It would be better if we had like an all blue topping signal. So yeah, just something like that would really, to me, be a signal that we're getting into a local high. Yeah, for the time being, it's taking out a lot of liquidity. So we may get a little pullback around the 101, just because I think that is going to be a pretty decent resistance level. So we're coming into this channel or the downward trend line now. It's probably going to see some pullback, but based on what we're seeing liquidation levels wise, I'd expect that pullback to probably take out a lot of the 100x leverage in this region, but I'd be expecting it to bounce. Probably you may get back down into the 97-ish area just to pick up 200 EMA, and that's pretty close to the value area high as well, I think. What's that at? So 98.33. So somewhere in the 98s would be a good level for a pullback and then a break to the upside. I'd probably expect that to be done within the same day at this stage. Indicator's not working at the moment. Fuck. Thought that was working. Fix it. The other thing too is, what's this on? So yeah, key channel here. The pivot levels we have now, like it rejected pretty hard off that pivot level. But it looks like we are breaking through both the pivot level and the channel at the moment. So once it's done sweeping liquidity, I'd expect a pullback. But again, like this here is probably going to be a better level for a bit of a pullback, somewhere up around here. 105, 500 sort of comes into play again. But yeah, at this stage, I mean, cyclic RSI on the 1 hour is quite overextended. You don't often get the bottom band coming this far above 50. That's a little troubling, I guess, given that we are coming into key vector recovery here. So even 101, 350, we may get a pullback off that. But for the time being, overall on the daily, things are still bullish. Shorter time frames, we may get a little bit of a pullback, as I said, into even 98. 97,500 is a pretty key pivot level with a vector there as well. So 97, 98 for the pullback, and then that would see cyclic RSI kind of probably pull back down in here. And then what you want to see is another leg up as we're sort of going up into these levels. So 105.5, it seems like that's going to be a key level for a more major pullback. But you can get a decent reset without a huge pullback on cyclic RSI. So yeah, look, I'm still overall bullish on the daily. It's just don't be too freaked out if we come back into 97K sort of area. There is a lot of support around that area as well. Apart from this wick down here, we haven't left a lot behind. So at this stage, barring any black swan, really bad news events, like which earnings season could deliver, but at this stage, forward guidance on all the earnings and stuff, the majority of the stats are leading towards more bullishness in the medium term, which the next month or so. All right.